The anniversary dinner sat cooling on the table like my marriage, cold, forgotten, and past its expiration date. I stared at the perfectly plated salmon, the candles burning down to nothing, and the little velvet box that contained 3 months of my salary. My phone buzzed with Sarah's text. Forgot. Girls' night tonight. Tomorrow instead. Sorry, babe. Sorry, babe, right, because forgetting your 10th wedding anniversary is just one of those little oopsies, like leaving the milk out or not recording your favorite show. I picked up the velvet box and turned it over in my hands. The diamond necklace inside had been custom made. Sarah's birthstone, surrounded by tiny diamonds in a pattern that matched the constellation we saw on our first date. Romantic, thoughtful, expensive as heck. Everything Sarah used to claim she wanted from me. Used to. The thing about being a security consultant is that you develop a sixth sense for when people are lying. It's not just the obvious tells, the avoiding eye contact, the fidgeting, the inconsistent stories. It's the subtle shifts in behavior, the changes in routine, the way someone's entire energy transforms when they're living a double life. Sarah had been living a double life for months. I grabbed my keys and drove across town to Emma's place. Emma was Sarah's stepsister, 28, kind-hearted, and the only member of Sarah's family who'd ever treated me like I was worth knowing. While Sarah's biological family saw me as the blue-collar guy who wasn't quite good enough for their precious lawyer daughter, Emma had always been different. She answered the door in paint-splattered overalls, her blonde hair tied back in a messy bun. Jake, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be celebrating with Sarah? Change of plans, I said, holding up the velvet box. I have something for you. Emma's eyes widened as I opened the box. The necklace caught the porch light, throwing tiny rainbows across her face. Jake, I can't accept this. This is for Sarah. No, I said firmly. This is for the only person in your family who's ever cared whether I lived or died. The only one who deserves something beautiful. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as I fastened the necklace around her neck. She touched it gently, like she couldn't believe it was real. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever owned. You deserve beautiful things, Emma. You always have. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera. Mind if I take a picture? I want to remember this moment. She nodded, smiling through her tears. I snapped several photos, then opened Instagram. Within minutes, I'd posted the best shot with the caption. Sometimes the most precious gifts go to the people who truly deserve them. Happy anniversary to someone who actually values love. Real love, family matters, had diamond moments. The likes and comments started pouring in immediately. My phone buzzed nonstop as friends, coworkers, and acquaintances reacted to the post. Most of them knew Sarah, and they were clearly confused but charmed by the gesture. Is he single? Commented my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. Ditch the ice queen and marry this one, wrote my old army buddy Mike. Goals, this is how you treat family, added Sarah's own cousin Jessica. Within an hour, the post had over 200 likes and 50 comments. Emma and I sat on her couch, reading through them and laughing. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. That's when Sarah's car screeched into Emma's driveway. She stormed through the front door without knocking, her face flushed with rage. What the heck is this? She demanded, waving her phone at me. Everyone's asking me why my husband gave my stepsister a diamond necklace on our anniversary. Because, I said calmly, your stepsister deserves nice things, and she was actually here to receive it. Sarah's eyes locked onto the necklace around Emma's neck, and her face went white. Take it off. Now. No, Emma said quietly, but firmly. It was a gift. Take it back, Jake. This is ridiculous. That necklace costs more than Emma makes in 3 months. Exactly, I said, standing up, which is why she appreciates it. Unlike some people, Emma doesn't take beautiful things for granted. Sarah stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Take it back now, or I swear to God. You'll what? I interrupted. Leave me? Cheat on me? Oh, wait, you're already doing that. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired tool. Sarah's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Emma looked between us, confusion and dawning realization crossing her face. That's right, sweetheart, I continued, my voice steady and cold. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? The late nights, the sudden gym membership, the way you guard your phone like it contains nuclear launch codes? Jake, I don't know what you're talking about. Girls' night, I said, making air quotes. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 2 months. Funny thing is, I called Jennifer last week. She said you haven't had a girls' night in over a year. Sarah's face crumbled, but I wasn't done. No one will ever take that necklace from Emma. Ever. Please don't interfere with the one decent thing I've done in this godforsaken marriage. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Sarah, check Instagram. Looks like everyone thinks I should dump the ice queen and marry the sweet one. Maybe they're onto something. The next morning, I woke up on Emma's couch with 17 missed calls from Sarah and 43 new Instagram notifications. My post had gone viral overnight. Over 1,000 likes, 200 comments, and it had been shared dozens of times. The local Facebook community groups had picked it up, and suddenly half the city was talking about the mysterious anniversary necklace. Sarah had tried damage control, posting her own Instagram story. Sometimes social media doesn't tell the whole story. Love my hubby and my sister. But the comments on her post were brutal. Why wasn't the necklace for you, though? Girl, if my husband gave my sister jewelry on our anniversary, we'd be having words. Something's not adding up here. I made coffee in Emma's kitchen while she got ready for work. She taught third grade at the local elementary school, and even with everything that had happened, she wasn't going to let her kids down. Jake, she said, adjusting the necklace under her cardigan, are you sure about this? About Sarah, I mean? I'm sure she's cheating, I said. I'm just not sure with who yet. Emma bit her lip. I might know something. I set down my coffee mug. What kind of something? Last month at the family barbecue, Sarah got a text and her whole face lit up. She stepped away to respond, and when she came back, she was different. Giddy, almost. But when your Uncle Bob asked who was texting, she said it was just work. What made you think it wasn't work? Because she was smiling the way she used to smile at you back when you first started dating. That hit harder than I expected. I remembered that smile, the one that had made me fall in love with her 12 years ago, the one I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. After Emma left for school, I called my old army buddy, Danny. He'd started a private investigation business after leaving the service, and he owed me a favor from when I'd helped him set up his security systems. Jake, my man, Danny's voice boomed through the phone, saw your Instagram post. Very dramatic, very public. I'm guessing this isn't a social call. I need surveillance on Sarah. Full package. Phone records, location tracking, the works. Crap, brother. You sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. I'm already down the road, Danny. I just need to know how far it goes. All right, give me 48 hours. And Jake, document everything from your end, too. If this goes south, you'll want evidence that you tried to save the marriage. I spent the rest of the day setting up my own surveillance operation. Hidden cameras in the house. Legal, since it was my house, too. A GPS tracker on Sarah's car. Also legal, since both our names were on the registration. I even installed monitoring software on our shared computer. It felt dirty but necessary, like performing surgery on a gangrenous limb. Sarah came home that evening with flowers and takeout from my favorite restaurant. She'd changed into the red dress I'd bought her for Christmas, and her makeup was perfect. I'm sorry about last night, she said, setting the food on the dining room table. I overreacted. I know you were just being sweet to Emma. Were you? I asked, not moving from the couch. Was I what? Sorry, or are you just sorry you got caught in a lie? She sat down next to me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same perfume she'd worn on our wedding day. Jake, I know things have been difficult between us lately. We've both been working so much, and we've grown apart. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. Where were you last night? I told you, girls' night. With who? A flicker of irritation crossed her face. Jennifer, Michelle, and Kara. We went to that new wine bar downtown. The one that's been closed for renovations for the past month? Sarah's face went white. I meant the other wine bar. You know, Vino's. Vino's closed permanently in January, Sarah. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Sarah's carefully constructed lie crumbled in real time, and I watched her scramble for another story. Okay, fine. We went to Jennifer's house. I said wine bar because I didn't want you to worry about me driving after drinking. Jennifer's in Florida visiting her mother. Posted about it all week on Facebook. Sarah stood up abruptly. Why are you interrogating me like I'm some kind of criminal? So I got confused about where I went. Big deal. I'm allowed to have a social life. You're allowed to have a social life. You're not allowed to lie to me about it. I wasn't lying. Then call Jennifer right now, on speaker. Ask her about last night's girls' night. Sarah stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse. I don't have to prove anything to you. This is insane. She stormed out of the house, tires squealing as she backed out of the driveway. I checked the GPS tracker on my phone. She was heading toward downtown, but not toward any of her friends' houses. She was heading toward the law firm where she worked at 9 o'clock at night. Danny called me the next morning with news that confirmed my worst suspicions. "Your wife's been very busy, brother," he said grimly. "Phone records show she's been texting and calling one number obsessively for the past 3 months. Guy named Richard Morrison. Never heard of him. He's a partner at her law firm. Divorce attorney, ironically enough. 42, recently separated from his own wife, drives a white BMW, and lives in that fancy complex on Riverside Drive." My stomach dropped. "How recently separated?" "Filed papers 4 months ago, right around the time your wife's communication with him ramped up." "Jesus." "It gets worse. I tracked her location data from last night. She didn't go to the office. She went to Morrison's apartment, stayed there until 2 in the morning. I sat down heavily in my kitchen chair. Knowing and knowing were two different things. Suspecting your wife is cheating is one thing. Having concrete proof that she spent the night with another man is something else entirely. "There's more," Danny continued. "I found her burner phone." "Her what?" "Second phone. Cheap prepaid thing. She's been keeping it in her gym bag. I got into the gym's security system, don't ask how, and watched her use it yesterday. The texts between her and Morrison are explicit." "How explicit?" "Can't wait to be with you again explicit. Your wife never made you feel like I do explicit. Jake's so dull in bed explicit." Each word landed like a punch to the gut. I'd known Sarah was cheating, but hearing the raw details of her betrayal was like being ripped open. "Want me to get copies of the messages?" Danny asked. "Yes, all of them. And Danny? I want surveillance on Morrison too. I want to know everything about this guy. You planning something stupid, Jake? I'm planning something smart. There's a difference." I spent the rest of the day researching Richard Morrison. Harvard Law School. Senior partner at Blackstone, Morrison and Associates. Specializes in high net worth divorces. Recently featured in the City magazine as one of the top 40 under 40 professionals to watch. He was everything I wasn't. Ivy League educated, wealthy, sophisticated. The kind of man Sarah's family had always thought she should marry instead of the ex-Army security consultant with the community college degree. But Richard Morrison had one significant weakness. He was arrogant. His social media was public, and he posted constantly about his expensive lifestyle. The BMW, the designer clothes, the exclusive restaurants. He was the kind of man who needed everyone to know how successful he was. That arrogance was going to be his downfall. Sarah came home that evening acting like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day, and started preparing dinner like she was the perfect wife. "How was work?" I asked, watching her chop vegetables. "Busy. We're working on this huge merger case, lots of late nights ahead." "With Richard Morrison?" The knife slipped and Sarah nicked her finger. "Ouch! How do you know Richard?" "You mentioned him before. Said he was a good lawyer." "Oh, right." She ran her finger under cold water. "Yes, he's very good at what he does." "I bet he is," I thought. "Maybe I should meet him sometime, since you're working so closely together." "That's not necessary," Sarah said quickly. "He's very busy, private person, doesn't really socialize with spouses." Interesting policy for a divorce attorney. You'd think he'd be more understanding about work-life balance. Sarah's shoulders tensed. "Can we talk about something else? I've been dealing with work stuff all day." "Of course, honey, whatever you want." But I was done giving Sarah whatever she wanted. It was time to start taking what I needed. That night, while Sarah slept, I went through her purse and found the burner phone. Danny had been right. The messages between her and Morrison were devastating. It wasn't just about attraction. It was about connection. The way they spoke of their future together, the way they laughed at me like I was an afterthought. "Jake's so clueless," one message read. "He actually thinks I'm working late." "Poor bastard," Morrison had replied. "Don't feel too bad. You'll be free soon enough." I can't wait. This house, this life, this boring marriage. I'm suffocating. Just a few more months, baby. Let me finalize my own divorce, then we can be together properly. I'll handle your divorce personally. He won't know what hit him. I took screenshots of everything, then carefully put the phone back where I'd found it. Sarah stirred in her sleep, and I watched her face in the moonlight. She looked peaceful, innocent, like the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But that woman was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed at all. I slipped out of bed and went to my computer. It was time to start evening the odds. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I gathered evidence, documented everything, and began planning my response. Danny provided me with detailed surveillance reports on Morrison, his routines, his habits, his weaknesses. The man was a creature of habit. Every Tuesday and Thursday he went to the gym at 6 p.m., the same gym where Sarah had suddenly gotten a membership 3 months ago. After working out, they would go to dinner at discreet restaurants outside the city, then back to his apartment. On Friday evening, I decided to pay Morrison's gym a visit. The place was upscale, all gleaming equipment and motivational posters. I spotted Morrison immediately, tall, dark-haired, wearing expensive workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly car payments. He was on the treadmill, running with the kind of focused intensity that successful people bring to everything they do. I got on the treadmill next to him. "Excuse me," I said after a few minutes. "Aren't you Richard Morrison, the lawyer?" He slowed his pace and looked over at me. "Yes." "Do we know each other?" "Jake Williams. My wife works at your firm. Sarah Williams?" The color drained from his face, but he recovered quickly. "Oh yes, Sarah. Excellent attorney. Very dedicated." "That's what I hear. She's been putting in a lot of extra hours lately, working very closely with you, from what she tells me." Morrison stopped his treadmill completely. "Mr. Williams, I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything," I said, still running. "I'm stating facts. My wife has been sleeping with you for 3 months. She keeps a burner phone in her gym bag filled with explicit messages about how much better you are in bed than me. She spent Tuesday night at your apartment until 2 in the morning, and she's planning to leave me as soon as your own divorce is finalized." Morrison's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Several other gym members had stopped their workouts to listen. "Those are some serious accusations," he said finally. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of one of Sarah's messages. His face went white as he recognized his own words. "Here's what's going to happen, Richard," I said, still running steadily on the treadmill. "You're going to end this affair. You're going to transfer Sarah to a different department. And you're going to pray that I don't decide to make this information public. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm educating you. See, the thing about being a security consultant is that I know a lot about information management. And right now, I have information that could destroy your career, your reputation, and your pending divorce settlement." I stopped the treadmill and stepped off. "Your wife is asking for alimony, right? 50% of assets? How do you think that's going to go when she finds out you've been cheating with a subordinate?" Morrison grabbed my arm. "Wait, let's talk about this rationally." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back up at his face. "Take your hand off me, Richard, unless you want this conversation to become physical as well as personal." He released my arm immediately. "There's nothing to talk about," I continued. "You made your choice when you decided to sleep with my wife. Now you get to live with the consequences." I walked toward the exit, then paused. "Oh, and Richard, Sarah's not leaving me. I'm leaving her. But not until I'm done destroying both of you." The entire gym had gone silent. Everyone was staring at Morrison, who stood frozen by the treadmills, his face red with humiliation. I drove home feeling better than I had in months. The look on Morrison's face had been worth everything, but this was just the beginning. When I got home, Sarah was waiting in the living room. Her face was flushed with anger, and she was holding her burner phone. "Richard called me," she said. "He told me what you did." "What I did?" I laughed. "That's rich, Sarah. What I did was introduce myself to the man who's been screwing my wife. You humiliated him in front of everyone. Good. He deserves to be humiliated. You both do." Sarah stood up, her hands shaking with rage. "How dare you go through my private things? Those messages were personal." "Personal?" I stepped closer to her. "You want to talk about personal, Sarah? Let's talk about how you told your boyfriend that I'm boring in bed. Let's talk about how you've been planning to divorce me while pretending to be a loving wife. Let's talk about how you've been lying to my face for 3 months while sleeping with another man. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I shouted. "You're a cheating, lying, manipulative witch who's been playing me for a fool." Sarah's face crumpled, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married. "Jake, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you fell in love with someone else? How you've been planning to leave me? How you and your boyfriend have been laughing about what a clueless idiot I am?" "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," she whispered. "But it did happen this way, and now you get to deal with the consequences." I walked toward the stairs, then turned back. Pack a bag, Sarah. Go stay with Richard or Emma or whoever will take you. But don't sleep in my bed tonight. This is my house too. Not for much longer. Over the next week, I put my plan into motion. The first step was social media warfare. I'd learned from my viral Instagram post that public opinion was a powerful tool, and I intended to use it. I created a detailed timeline of Sarah's affair, complete with screenshots of her messages, photos of her car at Morrison's apartment, and documentation of all her lies. Then I posted it all on a private blog and sent the link to a carefully selected group of people: Sarah's family, our mutual friends, her co-workers, and Morrison's soon-to-be ex-wife. The response was immediate and devastating. Sarah's mother called her crying, demanding to know how she could do this to such a good man. Her sister Emma was horrified by the explicit messages and told Sarah she was ashamed of her. Our mutual friends began taking sides, and most of them chose mine. But the real damage came when Morrison's wife received the information. Danny called me with an update. Morrison's wife just filed an emergency motion to freeze all their assets. She's claiming adultery and seeking full custody of their kids. His lawyer tried to get the case postponed, but the judge denied it. The guy's looking at losing everything. Good, I said. What about Sarah? Her firm's conducting an internal investigation. Apparently, office relationships have to be disclosed, and neither of them reported it. Morrison could lose his partnership, and Sarah could be fired for ethics violations. The second part of my plan involved our mutual friends. Sarah and I had built our social circle together over 10 years of marriage, and most of our friends were genuinely shocked by her betrayal. But I knew that some of them would try to stay neutral or even defend her. That's where things got interesting. Our friend group had planned a big barbecue for the weekend at Tom and Jennifer's house. Jennifer had returned from Florida and was horrified to learn that Sarah had used her as an alibi. Tom was equally disgusted and told me that Sarah wasn't welcome at their house anymore. But three of our friends, Mark, Lisa, and David, had different opinions. They thought I was being too harsh, that marriages were complicated, and that I should try to work things out with Sarah. Everyone makes mistakes, Mark said when he called me. Sarah's a good person who made a bad choice. Don't throw away 10 years of marriage over this. She threw it away, I replied. I'm just acknowledging reality. Come on, man. You're embarrassing her publicly. This social media campaign is cruel. You know what's cruel, Mark? Lying to your spouse for months while you cheat with someone else. But I guess we have different definitions of cruelty. Mark sighed. Look, we're all going to be at Tom's barbecue tomorrow. Why don't you and Sarah both come and we can all talk this through like adults? Sarah's not invited to Tom's barbecue. Well, then maybe you shouldn't come either. We don't want to take sides in this. You already took sides when you decided that my feelings don't matter, but thanks for clarifying where you stand. I hung up on him. The barbecue became a defining moment. Tom and Jennifer made it clear that anyone who wanted to defend Sarah's actions wasn't welcome in their home. Mark, Lisa, and David chose not to come rather than abandon Sarah, effectively ending years of friendship. But the real confrontation happened when Sarah showed up anyway. I was talking with Tom by the grill when Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. She got out wearing a sundress and sunglasses, looking like she was heading to a garden party instead of facing the people she'd betrayed. What the heck is she doing here? Jennifer demanded. I invited myself, Sarah said, walking up to our group. These are my friends too. Not anymore, Tom said firmly. I told you on the phone that you weren't welcome here. That's ridiculous. You're all overreacting. I laughed. Overreacting. Sarah, you cheated on me for 3 months and lied about it constantly. How exactly should we be reacting? It's between us, Jake. It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with them. You used Jennifer as an alibi. You lied to all of them about where you were and what you were doing. You made them unwilling accomplices to your affair. Sarah's composure began to crack. I never meant for anyone else to get hurt. But you meant for me to get hurt? I stepped closer to her. You meant to humiliate me and betray our marriage vows? I fell in love with someone else. It happens, Jake. People change. Feelings change. Then you should have divorced me before you started sleeping with him. The entire backyard went silent. Even the kids stopped playing to stare at us. You want to know the truth? Sarah continued, her voice rising. I've been unhappy for years. You're boring, Jake. You have no ambition, no drive, no passion for anything. Richard makes me feel alive again. Richard makes you feel like a hoe, I said coldly. Because that's what you are. A married woman who spreads her legs for her boss. Sarah slapped me across the face, hard. The sound cracked through the backyard like thunder. Everyone froze, caught in the sudden silence. I touched my cheek where she'd hit me, then smiled. Thank you. For what? For showing everyone who you really are. I pulled out my phone and showed the group a screenshot I'd prepared. This is a message Sarah sent to Richard 3 days ago. She's asking him to help her figure out how to get half my assets in the divorce, including the house my grandfather left me. Tom read the message over my shoulder and shook his head in disgust. Jesus, Sarah. She's not just a cheater. I continued. She's a gold digger who's been planning to rob me blind while pretending to be sorry. Sarah's face went white. That's not... I wasn't... You weren't what? Planning to take everything I own while running off with your boyfriend? Because that's exactly what this message says. Jennifer stepped forward. Sarah, I think you should leave. No, these are my friends. I'm not going anywhere. Yes, you are, Tom said firmly. This is my house and I'm asking you to leave. You can't do this. You can't choose him over me. We're not choosing him over you, Jennifer said sadly. We're choosing honesty over lies, loyalty over betrayal. Sarah looked around the group, desperate for support that wasn't coming. Mark, Lisa, and David weren't there to defend her. Emma had already made her feelings clear. Everyone else was looking at her with disgust or pity. Fine, she said finally. Keep your pathetic little friends, Jake. Richard and I don't need any of you. She stormed back to her car and peeled out of the driveway, leaving rubber marks on Tom's asphalt. Well, Tom said, breaking the silence, that was intense. I looked around at the faces of my remaining friends. People who had chosen integrity over convenience, truth over comfort. Thank you, I said. All of you. For standing up for what's right. That's what friends do, Jennifer said, squeezing my shoulder. But I wasn't done yet. The public humiliation was just the beginning. Sarah and Morrison had destroyed my marriage, my trust, and my faith in the woman I'd loved. Now it was time to destroy something of theirs. The opportunity for perfect revenge came 2 weeks later at the annual Riverside Chamber of Commerce Gala. It was the biggest social event of the year, attended by the city's elite, lawyers, doctors, business owners, politicians. Morrison would be there as a sponsor, and Sarah would likely be his date. I bought a ticket and prepared my presentation. The gala was held at the Grand Riverside Hotel in their massive ballroom. 500 of the city's most influential people, all dressed in their finest clothes, networking, and congratulating each other on their success. I spotted Morrison immediately. He was wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, schmoozing with potential clients and acting like he didn't have a care in the world. Sarah was beside him in a stunning red gown, playing the role of the sophisticated lawyer's girlfriend. They looked perfect together. Successful, attractive, powerful. Everything Sarah had always wanted to be. I waited until the dinner portion of the evening, when everyone was seated and the speeches began. The chamber president talked about community values and ethical business practices. The mayor discussed the importance of trust in professional relationships. Then they opened the floor for community announcements. I stood up and walked to the microphone. Good evening, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the sound system. My name is Jake Williams, and I have something important to share with all of you. Morrison's face went white when he saw me. Sarah looked like she was going to be sick. 3 months ago, I discovered that my wife was having an affair with her boss. Not just any affair, but a calculated, deliberate betrayal that involved lying, manipulation, and a complete disregard for professional ethics. Murmurs rippled through the audience. People began turning in their seats to look at Sarah and Morrison. Some of you know my wife, Sarah Williams, and her boss, Richard Morrison. They're both here tonight, actually. Sarah's the woman in the red dress who's currently trying to hide under the table, and Richard's the man who looks like he's about to have a heart attack. The murmurs grew louder. People were pulling out their phones, recording everything. Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I airing my personal business at a public event? Because this isn't just personal anymore. This is about professional ethics, community standards, and the kind of behavior we're willing to accept from our leaders. I clicked a remote, and a large screen behind me lit up with a slideshow I'd prepared. Richard Morrison is a divorce attorney who specializes in high net worth cases. He's trusted with people's most personal secrets, their most vulnerable moments. But how can you trust a man who has no respect for marriage vows, including his own? The first slide showed screenshots of Morrison's messages to Sarah, with identifying information blurred out, but the content clearly visible. These are text messages between Morrison and my wife discussing their affair and their plans to defraud both of their spouses in upcoming divorce proceedings. The ballroom erupted in shocked gasps and angry murmurs. Morrison stood up and started walking toward the stage, but hotel security blocked his path. This man, I continued, has been cheating on his own wife while helping my wife plan to steal half of my assets, including property that's been in my family for 3 generations. The next slide showed financial documents that Danny had helped me obtain, detailing Morrison's assets and his wife's divorce filings. Morrison's own wife has filed for divorce based on adultery. She's seeking full custody of their children because she doesn't trust him to provide a stable environment. And yet he continues to practice family law, advising other people on the sanctity of marriage. Sarah finally stood up and tried to leave, but the crowd blocked her path. Everyone wanted to see the woman who had caused such a scandal. As for Sarah, I said, she works at Blackstone, Morrison & Associates, where office relationships are supposed to be disclosed to prevent conflicts of interest. Neither of them reported their relationship, which violates both company policy and legal ethics guidelines. The final slide showed a timeline of their affair, complete with dates, locations, and evidence of their deception. I'm not here seeking sympathy, I concluded. I'm here because I believe this community deserves to know the character of the people they're trusting with their legal matters, their business relationships, and their personal affairs. Sarah and Richard made their choices. Now they get to live with the consequences. I stepped away from the microphone to thunderous applause. Not everyone was clapping. Some people looked uncomfortable with the public nature of my revelation, but the majority of the audience was on their feet, cheering. Morrison finally broke through security and reached the stage. "You son of a witch!" he shouted. "You've destroyed everything." "No," I said calmly. "You destroyed everything when you decided to sleep with my wife. I just made sure everyone knew about it." He swung at me, but I'd been expecting it. I dodged easily, and his momentum carried him past me. He stumbled and fell off the stage, landing hard on the ballroom floor. The crowd gasped, then burst into laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "World star!" And suddenly everyone was recording Morrison's humiliation. Sarah pushed through the crowd and knelt beside Morrison, helping him to his feet. Her face was streaked with tears, her perfect makeup ruined. "Are you happy now?" she screamed at me. "You've destroyed both of our careers, our reputations, everything." "I'm ecstatic," I said. "You wanted to humiliate me in private. I decided to return the favor in public." Hotel security escorted Sarah and Morrison from the ballroom while the crowd continued to buzz with excitement. Within minutes, videos of Morrison's fall and Sarah's breakdown were posted on social media. By morning, they would be viral. I walked through the crowd, accepting congratulations and support from people I'd never met. The chamber president shook my hand and told me I had guts of steel. The mayor's wife said Sarah was a fool for cheating on such a good man. But the best moment came when I reached the hotel lobby. Emma was waiting for me, still wearing the diamond necklace I'd given her weeks ago. "That was incredible," she said, hugging me tightly. "I'm so proud of you." "It's over," I said, finally allowing myself to feel the weight of everything that had happened. "It's finally over. What happens now?" I looked back toward the ballroom, where people were still talking about the night's events. Sarah and Morrison were gone, their reputations destroyed, their careers in ruins. They would recover eventually, but they would never forget this night. Neither would anyone else. "Now," I said, "I start over. Clean slate, fresh beginning, no more lies." Emma smiled and took my arm. "Want some company for that fresh start?" I looked down at her, kind, loyal, beautiful Emma, who had stood by me when everyone else was choosing sides, who had worn my gift proudly even when it caused her sister to hate her, who had never lied to me, never betrayed me, never made me feel like I wasn't enough. "I thought you'd never ask." We walked out of the hotel together, leaving the wreckage of my marriage behind us. Sarah had wanted excitement, passion, and a man who could give her everything she thought she deserved. Instead, she'd gotten public humiliation, professional ruin, and a boyfriend who was now facing his own divorce proceedings. Morrison had wanted a beautiful woman who would worship his success and stroke his ego. Instead, he'd gotten a cheating wife who had cost him his career, his reputation, and his family. They had both gotten exactly what they deserved. As for me, I got something better than revenge. I got justice. I got truth. And I got a second chance with someone who actually deserved it. 6 months later, Sarah's law firm fired her for ethics violations. Morrison lost his partnership and had to start over at a small firm across the state. His ex-wife got full custody of their children and most of their assets. Emma and I got married in a small ceremony attended by the friends who had stood by me during the worst time of my life. We honeymooned in Europe, using the money I'd saved for Sarah's anniversary gift. And every night when Emma falls asleep wearing that diamond necklace, I remember that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well with someone who actually loves you. Sarah texted me once, 6 months after the gala. "I'm sorry," she wrote. "I never meant for things to end this way." I deleted the message without responding. Some apologies come too late, and some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. I had learned that the hard way. Now it was her turn.